Yeah, and after that, I sold the company in 2016 and started this company. And that's why I get very passionate about AI because I start thinking about what AI can do in early 2009. And this where it started. But after that, which I wanted to do something in this area. So why do I become a technopreneur? I would say that since young, right? I did actually quite well in science and maths. So always thinking I want to be a scientist. And I joined the science club. I thought scientist was cool, right? Because partly the government kind of tell us about what the science can do and all this. But that's when I was in the primary schools, and later I become more aware of things. And in secondary school, I get to understand a bit more that scientists only invent, right? But if you want to make something that everyone can enjoy, right, then you actually, that's where you actually become an engineer. And so I mean, I was kind of quite passionate about being an engineer. I took a course. I actually from Ngee Poly. So I actually worked during the one of the things. My first job is actually working in Seagate, where I start to understanding about how they actually make hard disks. So I was actually working as an operator, but I work with the engineers. I start talking to engineers. I start understanding about how they design the hard disk, the PCB, then how they actually do the hard disk testing. Then I get very think, wow, engineer is so cool, right? Because you only can make one item, but as an engineer, you can make many things. And from there itself, right, you can actually benefit a lot more people. But that is when I graduate and start to work, right, then I start realizing that yes, you can make lots of things, provided you're no one who make the decision of what to make, right? Because the business people are the one who tell you what kind of feature to make, and you have to make it happen. And I started my first job as an application engineer in one of the listed company, and that is 2001. And and interestingly, that also that year, when 911 came, right, actually my company was not doing that well. So they actually retrenched a lot of people as well. And that really kind of a wake up call. And then I tell myself that, whoa, because I work with some of the senior engineer, including one of my engineering managers who was let go. And there's a joke that he said that, okay, what would he do, because he was very specialized in some of the thing in a network, right? But he said that, oh, because there are not many companies that build network card at the time. We build what is called the network card, one of the company here. And but there are not many companies doing this. He said he have actually a lot of difficulty finding a job. Indeed, for 6 months, he couldn't actually find a job. So that actually prompted me that but after that, of course, he found a job because the skills are definitely transferable. But that prompted me to think that I wanted to be a technopreneur because a lot of people saying that running a business is risky. But when for that incident, it gave me a different idea about risk. Risk means that when your career will change, at least because you are in charge, right? Your company finance, where you are. But sometimes you're working for people, right? You just doesn't know that what will happen because we don't know that the company are doing well, not doing well. We know that 911 hit us. We have a lot of order that couldn't ship, but we didn't know the company was actually was not in the financial good shape. So these are the things that prompt me that I wanted to decide my future. I wanted to decide what features to be built because I'm not just want to be the engineer who being when my boss told me what to build. So that changed my perspective about risk. I believe that when you're running your own business, you have many customers. So even one customer doesn't like you, right? Your risk level is not as high as you only have one job. And if your boss don't like you, or that or there's some circumstance that hit the company badly, right? Then you will actually kind of lost that income, and that income is high risk to you because you only depend on one and only one income. So I think the key thing lies here is that they made me realize of that when you actually running your company, right, you actually got multi-stream of income. And also that you also prompt me that you cannot just have one skills. Your skills should be your skills. You must have the skills that, yes, you will always call the T, you have deeply in skill, but you also must have the surrounding skills, that your skills must be able to be transferable. So this actually made me think about, why I wanted to start a business. Something is that actually I'm not that risk adverse. I want to reduce my risk so that I can have multiple income or stream. Second thing is that and also I moved in from and I've started realizing that when running a business, right, skills that are not just very hard skill, but a mix of hard and soft skills are really a good kind of area to make your skill set transferable. And this is where the next job which I took up, actually I took up a very different job, a sales job, before I actually start my own startup. So that's where I think it built a good foundation when I moved on to support sales and marketing in my second job. Okay, that's why I actually wanted to be a technopreneur. The other area is that that's why I say is that I have the right to decide the features, and I can do a lot more things that sometimes because I start realizing that I not just want to make money, but I think that any companies you should start out thinking of what kind of problem you want to solve, and then from there, right, how can you benefit the rest of the people? This way you can have a lot more control of what you want to do. That's why I started to run my own business. And of course, my first business was I also take a learning because my co-founder actually managed to get the funding, and we managed to run it for a while. And this is something that I learned from there about learning how to manage people and all these things. So I always think that it's good to raise fund, right? Because sometimes when you raise funds, you have a lot of mentors coming. But now that's good, right? We got this IES kind of accelerator or program, right, that can help you. So always get mentors to help you. But last time we don't have, right? So I was lucky because when you're funded by some of these seed capital, they bring in all these mentors to help you. But now even you are not funded, there's a lot of programs that can help you, and you can learn a lot by talking to people, learning how they work. And this way, I actually got to learn a lot more things and got to experience a lot more things compared to just being an engineer myself. That's why I continue to run my startup even though I failed. Because some of my friends, when they had a failed startup, right, they decide not to do it anymore because they say, wow, it's very emotional draining and financial draining. But I myself actually enjoy the experience. That I'm really playing a real game, right? But you're actually using your own money as stakes. So that's, I think, is the adrenaline that you have in running a startup is just very great. Okay, then someone asked me, how do you actually come up with good idea? No, because they say, oh, you must have a lot of good idea to run a business, right? But I want to give you an example of Climatic itself, right? Because first of all, is that you realize that for us, right, Glee Tree is the company and Climatic is actually a product. I usually started that way. The reason being that when we started, I really don't have a very good idea about what product I want to make. So I started with a company. Then the company can have many different products. So I usually disassociate the brand of the product from the company. That's because when I started this business, Glee Trees, right, I'm not really wanted to do RPA but I was interested in doing what is called something more into AI, which is called imaging. So my first idea actually was actually thinking of I was actually trying to do something to do with. I like to do something that cross domain because I think that was something unique. One area that cross domain was actually brand. Identify the different brand that people are using in social media, and then sell this intelligence, right, to brand company, and using technologies like AI to identify the brand, and especially things that we can work with retail, and then we can sell this idea to that. So, but when I went to talk to a lot of businesses, right, they say they are not interested in that. So you see a lot of things that this idea we have, so we go and test the market. So you will learn a bit more about this. You will go through the business modeling, and you learn about how do you actually go and do what is called the lean startup, right? Which I try to go and test first, right? I talk to friends, I talk to business owners who are running retail, I talk to people who are brand owner, and most of the people tell me that they're not so interested, but they tell me there's something Then I realized everyone I talk to, they say that, oh, in the office, right, they have a lot of things they still need to manually enter data. Then I thought, that's easy, right? I said, why don't you change your systems, right? Or make everything a mobile-based and web-based. They say they have tried, but it's not so easy, or it's very costly, or sometimes after they change, they're realizing that the systems are not as what they want, because a lot of time business change so fast. And that prompted me to think about, okay, maybe there's something else we can do. So sometimes it's that I didn't really came out with this fantastic idea. I just go and listen to what people. I have some idea. I talk to people, but people tell me that, hey, there's something else they want, and what they want is interesting. Was they just want to enter data. So what we did was that we did a MPV to do the repetitive data entry. And of course, before we do that, right, we did something which is, this is a linear diagram that I've drawn, but a lot of time is actually we also go and study, is this a big problem? Is it big enough? Can we solve it? So I look at it, hey, that's not difficult, right? Just entering data is controlling the mouse keyboard and then get some data from Excel. You can read in, there are a lot of existing technology available. But what the user want is just like easy. They don't need IT people to do it for them. So I think, oh, that's easy. I can create a GUI and make it happen and make it simple. Then I studied a bit more, realized, hey, there's a market that really started in US called robotic process automation, but it's not well known here in 2016. But then I also realized that when we go down and pitch to the first few customers, right, then they start telling us that, oh, it's good that you can enter data and download some form, right, but it's not good enough, and you even can DIY, right? The reason being that we have a lot of unstructured data, and so then that's something that we also start to look at. Wow, there's a lot of issue that customer, because when human are doing, we have a lot of intelligence and all this. So it evolved along the way. When after 1 year of trying to sell this product and trying to build it, we start to realize that there is a bigger issue, and this is where we actually think that when we talk about automations, right, a lot of people will require something like close to what human can do, human intelligence. But of course, I'm small that time in 2017. I still don't have the resources. But what I did is that I think that, okay, and I asked myself that, can we be better? So a lot of these things we also ask us, and then are there existing solutions? They are trying to get existing solution in the market, but they somehow don't solve the problem, or they are too expensive, or that they solve a part of the problem where they put in multiple systems, or that it's like kind of like not feasible. Because a lot of these clients talk to, they want something they can do it on site, not require the IT people to set up for them. This is where that we actually start to learn about what our product, and evolve along the way that we move into this area and reposition ourselves into more cognitive automation. But then we realized that there are also competitors outside, right? And competitors that are in Europe, US, but they do a lot more is the European languages like German, Spanish, French, and then of course, US got the English, and then the UK, they also doing that. But there is also an empty space here that we went to. A lot of people tell me that, oh, I'm in Indonesia company. Because when we go to trade show, we actually kind of start to talk to people. Can you do this in Indonesia, Bahasa? Can you do this in in Vietnamese, in Thai? Start realizing, oh, there is really an empty market there, and that's why we refocus again and say, let's reposition ourselves Asian cognitive automations and start building that our system are actually understanding Asian language. So you can see that I would say that a lot of things that I do is that sometimes go through an iterative process about talking to people, talking to customers, talking to stakeholders, and of course talking to investors. Right? They sometimes investors like VC or this, they are very well exposed to a lot of technology in the market, and they will kind of prompt you, ask you very difficult question. How can you be better? How good are you? Can you be 10 times better or 100 times better? Why are you different? Can your competitor build this system in a short period of time that can eat you up? So these are things that we prompt us to think, and this is an iterative process that we're still going through this on a daily basis. Not say daily, maybe on the monthly basis. Look at what features we are building with my engineers and what are things that we want to differentiate. How can we focus, right? So and along the way we focus on our positioning, and what we want to do is to become what is called a kind of a Asian white collar robot assistants. So we call it Asian cognitive automation. So I say that a lot of the ideas, right, is a lot of things that go through market testing, understanding, collecting data. Indeed, even the industry where we started, right? I still remember we don't have a product, actually a working product. We only got a product. We took up 2 shows. One show was in a manufacturing show, and the other show is that actually doing to the FinTech Festival in 2016. Was the first FinTech Festival. So I'm also not sure because we don't know which industry. So we take up 2 shows, and then we found that which one give us the mostly, and so a good way for us to talk to a lot of people. So I want to say something is that when we actually create products, sometimes the ideas is a lot of times that we may have some idea, as an engineer, we always think, oh, this is the best thing for customer. But when we go and talk to them, right, we got to have a better idea what they want. But sometimes they cannot express to you exactly what, but they say, oh, these are things that I don't like to do. Then you realize that when there's a challenge, there's a problem, and then start realizing, hey, we do have the capability because they are not tech people or not engineers, right? They may know how to solve it. And this is where we look at it and we think we can solve something. And of course, now, even we just launched a freemium version because, people say that, hey, why don't you let us do even small quantity, like let us try first, we like it, we don't mind paying a bit more, but we want to pay on an incremental basis. That's why we started this freemium version that you can try to use it, and for 500 pages, you can go back and actually start extracting your invoice, your purchase order, or even all your automation can do it at a very low fee. And we try to run the course with WSG funded that only costs $84. This is why a lot of clients tell us, can you do it? But then they say, can you do it for free and give us a challenge? But then realize that the Singapore government funding all this, they can put everything together. So some of these things is that it may sound impossible at first, but then along the way, we figure it out and how to get it done. Yeah. So I would say that it's really an iterative process that you keep trying, keep understanding, and keep learning from the customers, your investor, and all the different stakeholders. Okay, now people ask me that why you want to go China, right? I think the key thing like is that anyone know, right? Singapore market is small, and then and anyone know that if you and also we start realizing where we have a strength in. So for us, Telematic, we realizing we most of the time we can win the deal. Although I also have some banking customers and insurance, but we realize that every time we win, we have a high chance of winning a deal when it's a logistics and manufacturing company. And that's why we choose China, because China is the world manufacturing house now. And when you're manufacturing means there are logistics. So these two work hand in hand, right? So these are the areas that we believe that we can work in. Then of course, you ask me, hey, how do you actually enter China, and what's different between China and Singapore? So I will give some example. I call the 3S. Okay, as engineers, sometimes we like to use acronym, right? So it's easy to remember. So first thing is speed. So responding by speed here is that I give some example in Singapore, right? If I meet up a client the first time, right? It's like sales like that. It's a bit like dating, right? Then you will ask the client, okay, can I meet up? If the first meeting introduce, next you will understand to see whether based on what you understand our product can do, the solution will provide, right? Is there can we meet up next week? So this is the pace, right? If you meet a client today and you call them tomorrow, right, in Singapore, right, they will say, wow, you're very pushy, right? Because you need leave some time to think, But in China it's different. In China is that you meet them today, and next day you don't ask them follow up, they think you're not interested anymore. So you can see the compress in time, because I realized that the Chinese, they work very fast. They are very impatient. They want things to be seen. They want see result very short period of time. So these are the things that is very very kind of important when you work with China. The other thing is in a scale or scale up. The Chinese will say that in Singapore, right, most of the client will come and ask us, if I need maybe I buy 5 licenses for trial. But in China, they can say, can you provide me 500 license? How do you support if I have a project of to automate to actually automate and have need 500 license? Can you do it? So you can see that that is also a big difference in terms of the skills. We need to get a lot of partners to actually deploy the project, and they really need big partner. So in China, we work with a telco company called PCCW in order to scale the kind of skill they have. They can deploy so many people to do project, and they want to do it very fast, very short period of time. So here we can do a project, even a few licenses, right? We can do it for 1 month, 2 months. There they want, 500 license only deploy in a few weeks. So these are the kind of things we kind of the skills and speed they're looking at slightly different. Okay, in terms of this, I also share a bit about shared values. Things are seem similar, but yet different. We speak Chinese, we Singapore we speak Chinese, but the words we use are different. And also the other thing, I think one of the areas that I was in China, I realized this thing about, everyone like to call everyone 老师 or 同学. So they like to, so kind of it's really a lot more of hierarchical kind of a distance. We always talk about this distance, culture distance, right? One of these is they have this hierarchical culture distance, which is quite high compared to Singapore. That means that they like to address you by 老师 or 同学, and they like to share knowledge. They are usually they think it's disrespectful to ask question, but they will ask you on the private area, so that is the kind of thing that is a bit different compared to we have here in Singapore. Okay, then people ask me about, okay, what is our advantage, right? And what is the challenges when you go into the China market, right? First of all, is that I think there's a lot of opportunity. So again, I use a 5C, to represent, right? So one thing is called the cake. I call it cake because, in Singapore, right, the cake is just this size, right? Because we only have 5 million people. Just on Shanghai alone, we're talking about 25 million people. So you can see that within 1 hour, in Shanghai, you can travel most places, 1 to 2 hours, right, by public transport, right? So you can reach up to 25 million, so the cake is very big. So opportunity is definitely huge, right? Because, and also the customers are big. They buy a lot more license, wherever the sales cycle is the same. So there's really a lot of opportunities that I would say that, that Singapore companies should tap on a bigger market. When you build a product, right, you must think of regional. This is something that I learned also, that if you only think of local, it can never grow, because that's how big Singapore market is. And you definitely need to reach economy of scale. That's why you must always think that how your product can scale overseas from day one. That's why we built in day one when we design our product, right, we design multi-language. That means the product can support multi-language. And so that we also have put in various infrastructure. So you must think of that. But Asia, of course, there are challenges, right? No, not just operate in English. Indonesia, my system actually in Indonesian language. And of course, in China, my whole system in Chinese, and all the instruction had to be in Chinese. But it's okay in China to have some English, mix of English and Chinese. They seem to accept that because they know that we are called 外企, and it means a foreign enterprise. We tend to not being able to put everything in Chinese language. Okay, the other thing is connection. I think the key thing lies here is that Singapore have put a lot of things where we have a lot of program with the China market itself. That's why I also choose that, because if you look at with a major kind of we call the CCP, Chongqing connectivity, right? So that one, the CCC program is a very good program because it helps us to at least get the first early customer. On top of that, Enterprise Singapore have also recent years put in this called the GIA, Global Innovation Alliances, where they actually bring startup company and they actually fund you for the connection, where they actually bring the local, what is called business market consultant, to bring you customers to help you kickstart. So these are the things that, in Singapore, right, Enterprise Singapore will never not find customer for you, right, because they cannot help you to operate. But overseas, they have a lot of this kind of program to help Singapore to scale. That's why I say that, and in China alone, they got, I think, 3 or 4 partners. In one of the country with the most number of partners, right? They have one in Shanghai, Beijing, and Suzhou and Shenzhen. So you can mention they actually got 4 now. I don't know whether more are coming up, but definitely these are very helpful for us. So there's a lot of connections, and they bring around. Even tomorrow we're going to have a pitch in Nanjing, right? So these are a lot of opportunity that Singapore companies should tap on, especially if you're a startup and you have good innovative kind of products or solutions. Another area is cost. Right? I went to China. I always think that how can we compete, right? Singapore cost is so high, but actually it's not true. I was in Shanghai. I think Shanghai cost is higher, or it's not the same. And then we also tap on our regional office, right? Then we start realizing our regional office, our salary is so much lower compared to China. So I believe these are opportunity because it give us a competitive advantage. So we say that you must always work on a factor of 10, right? Because of course the Chinese are innovating very fast. So we're also trying to do the same, but we definitely have a cost advantage now compared to the Chinese company. So I think based on these 3C, I can have opportunity on paper to be able to win in China. Of course, there are also challenges, right? The China is also a very we also have culture different, right? When the way of working with them. And also the other thing is that competitive. The Chinese are very, very competitive. They see something that is good, they will copy, they will replicate what you're doing and try to do it better, cheaper, and faster. Of course, our side says that the market is still very big. There's really a opportunity, the cake that can slice it. And the other area, of course, I think we have a cost advantage now with the Asia resources, right? We definitely can being able to compete with them. But of course, we must be able to think and move as fast as them. I think that's not difficult for us. So this is what my take on the China market. So with that, I think I will stop here with my co-founder. Will talk to you more about our product and what is all this. And so the opportunity for you to use our software for free if you for limited quantities, but it's actually renewal every year. With that, I let Ada take over from here. Ken, Andy, how should I stop? Should I stop sharing the screen? Hello?
Maybe we have some Q&A first.
Some Q&A first. Okay. So how are you going to post the question? Are you going to, Andy, how are you going to let me know the questions?
What's the question?
Hello, Chris.
Yes.
Hello, Chris. Yeah, just now you were mentioning that there is a very iterative process, right? So when do you decide when to stop or when to pivot?
Okay, frankly speaking, sometimes numbers can tell you, right? Is that, for example, when we meet customers, when we don't have the time, we don't have what is called the document extraction or Asian language, right? So what the first thing is that every 10 customers we meet, you realize that we need to solve, right, maybe 4 or 5 customer problem. So we realized that we definitely need to move into something that can solve a lot more, like what is called cognitive intelligence. Because the numbers tell you, right, if every 10 customers you meet, you only can solve 5 problems, you cannot solve the other 5, you actually lose half the sales, right? I bring my partners in, and every time they bring, I say that, oh, we cannot, because when we actually, one of the technology, I don't mention the name, was that when we try to do this document and AI, right, they couldn't actually match when the total go to the second or third page when there's an invoice, right? They couldn't actually do it. But my client say, that's a very common thing, right? My invoice cannot be always on first page. It can go to second and third page. How can a technology? Because they're using location based. They also realizing we need to build something that is more intelligent, that can read the words, understand the words in a document, and then whether they go to second and third page. So numbers tell you, it's gut feel. So what metrics I cannot actually tell you, but you can tell you that anything more than you have realized that every time you go and talk to client, out of 10 clients, maybe as long as 2 or 3 tell you, hey, this is something you should do, then you should start realizing that maybe I need to get this thing done. Yeah, this problem is big enough. And then, of course, you have to go back and study, do some market research, right? And say, can this big enough that I can do? Can I win? Can I do 10 times better? How to win? But a lot of people think, oh, I do just about maybe 1.5 times better. I should be able to win. Not true, because there are a lot of people may be trying to solve them. You must, on theoretically, like we want, at least from your formula calculation, must be at least 10 times better that you can win. Yeah. So that's why that's how we actually I know you talk to 10, 20 people and it gives you the signal. Yeah. I hope I answer you that question, when to pivot. Yeah. But my thing is that I always build incremental. I may not be able to solve that problem now, but I will say, okay, we aim to solve that. We need resources, we need to hire
Hey,
some.
thanks for the answer. Anybody else has any question?
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Christopher.
Hello, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Christopher. I'm Naveen, and I'm here from India today just to attend your event. So my question here is that in IoT, how you help the companies to strive into their business, and like which is of your partner or client is doing this.
Okay, let me repeat your question. I hope I understand correctly. You are trying to tell me that, let's say you are running an IoT company, how can I compete better with the big company? Okay. And what are our partners for IoT company? Am I correct?
Uh, yes, partly. I mean to say, which of your partner is doing in this IoT stuff, and how you are helping them to improve them?
Okay, Ken. So let me answer one. The first question first is that okay, partners. We do have partners doing IoT. So indeed, my initial concept of the thing was I took out a manufacturing show, right, was actually to work with IoT company. Indeed, we also took part in an IoT show before the pandemic. So the concept at the time we have was that note that a lot of time, right, when you try to do Internet of Things, or you're trying to put a sensor, then what we are focusing on manufacturing. So I use a manufacturing example was you're trying to put a sensor on the machine. But one of the problem I realized was that when you try to put a sensor on some machine, right, some of the sensor you cannot put inside the machine because you avoid the warranty. And also, even you put a sensor inside, sometimes you may not be able to collect some data as well, because some of the data actually already on the machine itself. So the concept the time we're doing was actually to create what is called two things. One thing was to collect data for IoT, but we want to do more than collection. Was with we want to control the machine so that we don't have a factory operator. So my initial concept was that, imagine that a factory got 2,000 people, right? I can replace the 2,000 and just pay and then just tell the factory owner to use my software robots. Then I will be able to solve a lot of problems and then also lower their cost, even though they don't have to change their machine. There's a lot of manufacturing, they are using old machine. They may not want to change, or they'll take some time to phase out the machine. But in between, you can put in this software robot. So we still have the concept now working with some company, but now moving more to what is called FM, facilities management. Somehow because FM, they can't change the building. And so we work with some IoT company where they put in data, but we also control their legacy kind of a system, the building BIM system, BIM system, and other systems all integrated using our platform. So that one become another area that we are working as well. Yeah. So we welcome to join us. Indeed, we have a marketplace to work with other IoT company. We can even help you to market your solution as well. Yeah. So that part I answered the first part of how to work with us. Yeah, as for just now, I don't know whether I answered the other question, talk about how can we compete with bigger boys, right? Like us, right? What we did is that's why I say first of all is that we realized that for our technology, right, we focus a lot now in the Asian language. Well, because the big boys like even Microsoft, right, they are not interested in like Thai language or Vietnamese or Indonesian language. And also because you need to put engineer in the country, because it's language, language is something that your engineer must in the country in order to understand whether the results are correct or not. So we realize that this is something that we can win, there's a strength on, and also our big player generally they may not be very interested, but it allow us at least some room to move, to build yourself up, because you must understand when you're a startup, you're like a baby, you're small. How can you fight with a big boys, right? So what you can do is that you find a market that the big boy may not be very keen to compete with. At least you grow yourself bigger first, so that you can have enough nutrient and grow out to be a big boy. And after you can compete in other areas. So we must pick the area. And to them, frankly speaking, for big company, right, 100 million business may not be interested of them because they are so big, right? Microsoft is a $1 trillion company. They need $1 billion kind of business. So for us, these are the areas that we want to choose something a bit more niche, something that the big boys may not want to compete on, and you think you have a strength to do 10 times better than the other startup. This is something you probably can look at. Yeah. So that's my advice. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lim.
One last question from me. Where do you see your company going forward after the pandemic, and how you see your company can grow faster in China? How to navigate the market there?
Okay. I will say that I went to China, right? I learned something from them. There's this Chinese, I use this Chinese thing. They call that the Chinese would like to do a lot of what is called platform. Platform means what? It means that you make money, like the Chinese have said it, 羊毛生在猪身上. Okay, just to translate, means that you don't make money from your direct customer. Actually, you make money from someone else when you're selling your direct products. So we are transforming from just a product company to a platform company. And that's why we see that. That's why we have the freemium version, that already launched. And you can see that we do have competitors that provide free trial, but not really a freemium version. Means that, and we include all this, including the AI, all included inside that as well. Just that we limit the use, will be more laborized the use along the way. But that is something that we're trying to become more of a platform player now, compared to just being a product company. So we see that's where we want more people to enjoy the product we have, they can use it, and also to uplift most of the SME so that they don't really have to have a high volume, and yet they can enjoy the technology as well. So we see ourselves more than just that's why I say the Glee trees have this climatic product, but we may have some other product coming along. So what we see ourselves is that a company that can do good plus enable a lot of honor a lot of the office staff to allow them to actually go home early and do more interesting work, right? This is where we see ourselves. And once we can, and that's one of the missions, and not just about making money. This is very important that we feel that what we are doing. Yeah. So we are transforming from a product to a platform company. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I think we will let you go and let Ida take over. Yeah, take care and get well soon.